Okay, I said I was going to make a video about my hardware interrupt macros that are on rotation for all 5 boxes, and I'm going to do that right now. Hopefully a little quicker than the last one, so covered a lot of stuff about the Swiftpoint and the Amos in 2 other videos. This is going to just cover interrupts, and I've got these broken up into interrupt, slows, and stuns, but we're just going to go over one of those. So these are only available when I have top thumb held down, which, as I covered in the DPS video, this turns on relative mouse positioning, and then it turns on sync. And sync is on as long as I have that top thumb button pressed down. When I let go of it, sync turns off. And so I've got a fair amount of the mouse remapped while I'm doing this, or while that button is held down. And so the way that this works really is kind of simple. Once you sort of wrap your head around how to use modifiers and actions while alternating keys, and you can sort of see that here. Okay, so the macro itself is just holding down the modifiers that I need to have held down for the 5 abilities I want to cycle through. So like if you had a GSC cast sequence, you would just have one button and you would have a macro with 5 lines, right? In this case, we're going to use an action bar with particular keybinds to sort of move away from a single button press where software is flipping the macro and sort of get back to what ISBoxer did, where every ability had a keybind and you would send a different keybind each time you wanted to step through, let's say, actions and their steps, right? If you remember that for combat key virtualization. It's not totally the same, but it's close enough that I think most people should recognize it. So the key thing here is when you are doing a macro like this, the modifiers have to be pressed before you start alternating, and you do your alternate command. And of course, since we're doing I'm doing a 5-man group alternating through 5 potential interrupts, I picked the number 5 here for alternate, right? And then after the 5, you release the modifiers. And so with an action bar set up to respond to these 5 hotkeys with their modifiers, you can basically make a hardware interrupt rotation. So I am going to show you that. Now, unlike in the last video where I sort of just approached things with a single character playing, I did load up all of my boxes here, and I have grabbed their bar that is dedicated to interrupts, and I have blown it up to like giant size. So what I am hoping is that you can at least see, even on those little tiny squares up there, that we're going to be pressing buttons, right? And so there's really not much more to explain. Hopefully this is making sense. Really, that alternate is just going to send 5 different keys. And so I'm using ButtonForge. Bartender's another really good choice, although I will say if you do use the Guild Wars 2 UI like I do, Bartender and the Guild Wars 2 UI just do not play together nicely. Bartender really wants to get control of the default WoW action bars, and so does the Guild Wars 2 UI. So I had to find something else. Other people in the Happy Days Discord have recommended a number of button add-ons. ButtonForge is pretty cool. I do have to sort of manually set them up each time I want to get a character going, which is sort of a pain. But, what are you going to do? So I actually have the ButtonForge config set to a keybind here, which I'll just open that. And I'm just going to click on the key bindings just to show that this is Alt-Control-Shift-C. And so I'm going to close that. If I just look at one of the other groups, you can see this is Alt-Control-C. And, all 3 of these bars basically have different modifiers, but then the key is C, V, B, N, M, right? And it kind of doesn't matter what keys you pick, but the modifiers have to be the same on all 5 buttons. So, you know, you can press any button you want as long as it's not bound to some other button or action bar or whatever. But you do need to keep the modifiers the same, because those things will not change anytime the hardware macro loops through, okay? And I've picked the best area to stand in while being idle, but it's getting late, and I'm kind of staying up too late, and I'm a little tired. So I'm just going to loop through this really quick, and hopefully this will be an even shorter video than the last one, but you'll at least be able to see. I'm going to turn on sync, and you can kind of see that. I'll get everybody strafing here. Now I've got, you know, when I hold top thumb, I have the fingertip button set to strafe left and strafe right, and you can sort of see that in action here. And great, so everybody's sort of over here. Might run one person off. Now I have interrupt set to be the left trigger push, so it's, you know, basically, if you recall on the DPS video, when I'm holding that button down, somebody's running away here. This is always a good sign. Bring everybody back in here. That was weird. It remains to be seen exactly how well this is going to work out if I'm not careful about the buttons I'm pressing on the mouse. It's a little less dicey when I'm questing, because that's all pretty predictable and whatnot. But all right, and I'm just gonna spread everybody out again. Not like I really need this, but okay. So what I was saying was left finger trigger, right? So if I'm doing DPS, I'm pressing and holding the mouse, the left mouse button, and wiggling the mouse back and forth. When I need to interrupt, instead of doing this, I have, oh shit, I know what's wrong. This other character is targeting a mob and not just standing here. And I just got stunned. Sweet. Okay, now we won't have any runners. So videos would be just a little shorter if I, like, you know, paid attention to those little things. So anyway, what I'm going to do, hold down top thumb and press the left finger trigger down with my, like, the middle of my finger. So I'm holding this down. I'm just going to go like this. The whole point I was trying to make is if I'm DPSing with my left finger and I'm holding it down on the left mouse button and I need to DPS, I can just stop holding down the left mouse button, but I'm still using the same finger to sort of just, you know, push down the interrupt, which is why I picked that one. Okay, here we go. So we should see, it looks like we're about partway through here, but you should see everybody clicking. Now we don't have a target, but you can see on every screen they are cycling through, and I should probably see. Okay, there we go. I might not have the Shadow Fury. Oh no, it did go off, the Warlock. And it looks like I might have accidentally pulled a bar off, or pulled a button off of this bar. So I didn't spend a lot of time thinking of the best interrupt layout here. Like, a lot of these aren't no channeling and that sort of stuff, but some of them are good, some of them are not as good. It doesn't really matter how well I have my action bar set up. What matters is that you see it's cycling through. So now the one kind of neat thing that I tested that I want to show, I've now stopped cycling through that. Okay, actually let's just do it one more time. All right, we just cast the second ability, so let's run around. We're gonna do a bunch of stuff like sync is off, now it's back on, everybody's following. Mouse sync is off. I still have keyboard sync on though. We're all stunned, which is awesome. So I'm just gonna run around a little bit, and now I'm gonna hold down the top thumb button again, and I'm gonna run the interrupt. And you see it hit 3. The mouse remembers where you are at in one of these alternate commands, even if you've let go of the button that makes that key mapping available, which I was not expecting. And even if the mouse didn't do that, I'd be okay with it. But I mean, and I know that like that sort of issue where like your hardware whatever, not your hardware, like any interrupt rotation, like you always want to have them in sync, right? And if they're not, then they're not as reliable. And I know like there are ways to kind of get that with GSE, but it's a little dicey, right? Sometimes it doesn't work out. Maybe sometimes you've got, you know, reset on combat clicked on one tune, but not the others. But this thing remembers it. It remembers where you are, and it's always in sync. Now, of course, I have this set up with this button I'm holding down to turn sync on, and of course, everybody plays differently, and you know this is not the only way to do it. The important thing is that this mouse, if you set up a hardware-based, basically a round-robin macro that corresponds to buttons that have keybinds on your action bar, it is just never going to forget where it is in that rotation. As far as I can tell, I haven't yet. So I've got, you know, a slow. I've got sync flipped here. I've got, you know, a slow bar which you can't see really. It's tiny. It's down here, right? So I'm here, and then I've got a stun one, which again is kind of hard to see, but that's bottom left here. So these all remember where I was in the rotation. So let's see. Stuns is in the third one. Slows, I believe, is in the second one. I didn't notice where. All right. Now interrupts is on the fourth one. So if I pull the trigger, I'm sorry, that's left trigger pull. That just moved slows to the fourth one. And if I remember all of those numbers I just rattled off. Now, stuns is on the fourth one. It's on the fifth one. Slows is at the beginning, and it's going through. And then, I thought this was the coolest thing. It essentially solves one of like the trickier things that we've had to deal with in terms of like efficient use of interrupts in a way that is reliable. You know, you get pretty far with GSE, but so far this seems bulletproof. And just so I thought I would show that off. So then I guess real quick before I wrap this up, I'll just give you one quick look at the macro itself again. So I will just come back out here just to sort of show this is sort of buried in my top thumb button press setup. I've got slows, stuns and interrupts here. I basically have different versions of Control, Shift, and Alt set up, and it's just the same alternate 5, C, V, B, and M, right? And it lets go. And I thought that a lot of people would really appreciate having that just kind of like spelled out and sort of demonstrated. And that's all I got for this one. Down to 13 minutes, which hopefully is exciting for everyone else. See ya.